Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Quarantine Bakery, here with Paul Brooks. If you're a follower of this series, you've noted that in my last video I said that I was going to be doing a two-part recipe. So last week I made for you a chocolate hazelnut spread, similar to the one you buy in the little plastic jar in the store. But instead of like that one you buy in the store, the version I made used my own hazelnuts that I roasted, put in the food processor, processed with a little bit of cocoa powder, a little bit of powdered sugar, a little bit of salt, and the result is something that really brings forward the flavor of the nuts just as much as it does that cocoa flavor. And I find with the version that you buy in the store, it really, all you really taste is the cocoa and the sugar. So I was really pleased with the way that turned out. And I figured, well, now that I have that, let's use it to make a new recipe. So the idea from this recipe came from one of my colleagues at work who, when he's asking me about things to make or things maybe to make for his kids, he came up with this idea of taking a really classic cookie and to make it a little special, to stuff it with that chocolate hazelnut spread. And I remember I gave it a try, brought it to work, he took it home to his kids, and his kids loved it. And I thought it was pretty great too, but you know, maybe could use a little refinement. So I thought today I would try to do that out. But I think it's a great use for that hazelnut spread. But today I'm going to make for you Snickerdoodle cookies stuffed with chocolate hazelnut spread. You know, as I remember before, when I tried this before, you take the finished cookie and maybe microwave it a little bit, get a little warm, you bite into it. It's just like having a little pool of hot fudge right in the middle of your Snickerdoodle cookie. So, I know Snickerdoodles are traditional for this time of year during the holidays, but I figure let's see if we can kick it up another notch and make something just a little bit different. All right, so let's get started. To start off, as always, we're going to preheat our oven. I've already had mine going. It's set at 375 degrees. Next, let's work on our dry mixture. Over here in my dry mixture, I have 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, and then I'm going to add to that 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda and a ½ teaspoon of table salt. Just put all those together, grab a whisk, and quickly just whisk them together. As I've mentioned many times before, if you're going to add some flavorings or you're leavening to your flour, it's always best to do it in a separate mixture on its own. That way you can be sure it gets well incorporated and not you get pockets of the leavening or the salt or what have you. So just give it a quick stir. All that looks great. So knock out my whisk, and then for the moment I'm just going to set this aside. You see I have my big stand mixer out. So to this I'm going to take 8 tablespoons or 1 stick of unsalted butter. Add it to the work bowl of my mixer. And very important, make sure that your butter is at room temperature for this because it'll cream up a lot better. To this we're also going to add 8 tablespoons of vegetable shortening. So I've already measured this out. I'm just going to take a rubber spatula and pop it out of my measuring cup. Add it to the work bowl of my mixer. And then let's take 1½ cups of granulated sugar. And we'll pour that in the bowl of the mixer. Add our paddle attachment. Drop the head down, and what we're looking to do is cream together the shortening, the sugar, and the butter, making sure it's nice, light, and fluffy. So I like to start on a low speed just till that sugar gets moistened. Then I'll increase the speed to about medium. And we want to let this go maybe 2 or 3 minutes till it's well incorporated and very light and fluffy. So 2 to 3 minutes, and I'll see you back here. All right. That's been about 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll bring this over to the camera because I want to emphasize the importance of beating this so it's nice and light and fluffy. You can see that in the bowl, and when I pick it up there on the end of the paddle, it nearly looks like whipped cream. It's that light, that fluffy. We've incorporated the sugar and beat it well. Again, there isn't a lot to this recipe. Make sure you spend the time to make sure that's light and fluffy because it does affect the overall texture of the cookie and the end. So I'll take just a moment and scrape down the sides of my bowl and clean off that paddle just a little bit just to make sure I get as much in the bowl as I can. Fix that paddle back on. And we'll drop the head down again. And now on low speed, we're going to add 2 eggs, one at a time. Again, we're going to crack them in. And just mix briefly until it's all the way incorporated. And once that first egg is incorporated, we'll go ahead and crack in our second egg. Again, it just takes a few seconds for those to get incorporated. I'm going to stop the mixer briefly and again make sure I give a good scrape down on the sides of the bowl. Make sure if you're using a stand mixer like this, you also get that divot that's at the bottom that can sometimes cause some ingredients not to get mixed together well. All right, we'll put our mixer back on low speed. Grab out our flour mixture we made earlier. Again, remember this is all-purpose flour, cream of tartar, baking soda, and salt. And just slowly, we're going to incorporate this a little bit at a time. If we add it all at once, it'll end up with a cloud of flour in our face. We'll just add this a little at a time till it's all incorporated and looks like cookie dough. All right, I'll put in the last addition of flour. And now we just want to let it mix maybe another 30 seconds. We don't want to overmix it, but we do want to make sure that flour is well incorporated. And again, if necessary, if you're using a hand mixer especially, remember to scrape down the sides of the bowl as you go. So make sure you get everything nicely incorporated and nice and homogeneous. All right, that looks great. As you can see, I've transferred our cookie dough from the big mixing bowl down to this smaller bowl, but you can definitely see this mixture is nice, light, and fluffy, but it is well incorporated and all mixed together. I've also taken an opportunity to clean off the counter because we need to get ready to actually make our cookies. So, give me a moment to grab down our next set of equipment. So here I have 2 or actually 3 baking sheets, which I've gone ahead and lined with silicone mats, as you can see there. I also am going to need a dinner plate. And of course, we're going to need that chocolate hazelnut spread that we made last week. I've gone ahead and stuck that in the freezer to firm up a little bit because unlike the commercial made variety, this is a little more runny. So I want to make sure I give it a little bit of firmness because it'll make it easier to portion out for each of our cookies. But let's get set up and get ready. So here I have a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. I'm going to pour that on the plate and 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon. Again, add that to the plate and using either your fingers or a fork, just mix that together, just like that. Next, I'm going to grab out my portion scoop so I can help myself make even-sized cookies. Grab out some cookie dough. And I do want to make a little bit of a well in that cookie so I can put some of that filling in. Then I'll open up my jar with my chocolate hazelnut spread. and I have another little smaller portion scoop. I'll fill the divot I made with a little bit of that spread, and then I'll just go ahead and fold that cookie dough up over that chocolate hazelnut mixture. Maybe make sure I pinch it together so I don't have any of that chocolate showing. Roll it up a little bit. Then we'll come over here to our sugar and cinnamon mixture and coat that. Shake it gently to knock off any excess, and then we'll go ahead and just place it right there on our cookie sheet. So again, maybe I'll do this one a little closer to the camera this time. I'm just going to take my scoop of dough, make a little well in the middle of it with my thumb, grab out my, my chilled chocolate hazelnut spread, again drop maybe a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half in the center there. Pinch that up, close it up, see if I can get it roughly into the center of that cookie. And then roll it on my plate that has the cinnamon sugar mixture. Shake it to knock off excess, and we'll go ahead and put that on our tray. So just give me a few minutes and I'll fill up this first tray and then we can get it in the oven. But that'll just take me a few minutes and I'll see you shortly. All right, this is the last of the cookie balls for our first tray. I'm just going to roll that here in the cinnamon sugar, dust off any excess, add it to our tray. And as you can see, I've spaced them quite a bit out because, as I recall, these tend to spread out quite a bit. So I'm just going to start with 6 on a tray. We'll see how that turns out. And I'm ready to drop them in the oven. Again, my oven's been preheated to 375 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and drop those on the center rack. And we'll go ahead and bake these for about 8 to 12 minutes or so. So maybe I'll set it for 8, and after 8 comes up, we'll take a look, see how they've gone, see how much more they might need to do. Again, we don't want to bake them all the way. We want the centers to be a little bit soft, but I do want to make sure that cookie does bake appropriately. So I'll see you in 8 to 12 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to prep the second tray of cookies the same way I did the first and keep going that way. So catch you in just a little bit. Okay, well, that first set of cookies bakes, I want to talk to you about another idea I had. As I remember, this recipe, while nice and has all the things that we love, the cinnamon sugar, the chocolate hazelnut filling in the middle, or that rich sugar cookie, I remember last time I made this, on the one hand, I loved it. It was great, but it also was a little on the sweet side. And while it might be great for some people, there's some things about it I kind of wish was a little different. So I was thinking, and right before I started shooting this video, I was on the phone with Grandma, and I was asking her, Grandma, any other ideas? What could I do to cut back on the sweetness a little bit? And she gave me a good idea. So I thought, while that first set bakes, let's give her idea a try. And essentially, her idea is a different way to coat the outside of the cookie. So, we're just going to experiment here a little bit. I'm going to grab out my food processor, plug that in, let's open it up. And I was noticing up here in the cabinet, I had some graham crackers, and not just any graham crackers, but cinnamon sugar graham crackers. So it's already got some sugar in it. And I figured, let's try coating some of these cookies with a graham cracker crust on the outside. Why not? So I'm not really going to measure this. I'm just going to go based on intuition. I think I'll take, maybe 3, or maybe to be safe, I'll take 4 graham crackers. I'll just roughly crumble those up here into the work bowl of my food processor. Now, if you didn't have the graham crackers with that cinnamon sugar coating on them already, maybe you'd want to add about a tablespoon or so of sugar. But I will, no matter if you do that or not, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And I'm thinking to give this a little different flavor than the other ones, how about a little dash of nutmeg? So let's add a little dash. Again, maybe a little nutmeg goes a long way. And those already have cinnamon on them from the cinnamon sugar. So I'm just going to pulse this in my food processor, get it started, and maybe I'll let it run just 30 seconds or so till I get a nice fine powder. All right, that's been about 30 seconds to a minute pulsing, and I scrape down the sides of the bowl. But you can see very quickly that made a nice fine graham cracker crumb. So I think I'll just take a second dinner plate and do the same thing as I did for this cinnamon sugar mixture. Just give myself a little space, pour out those graham cracker crumbs onto the dinner plate. And then, just as I did before, I'll take a scoop of the cookie dough, make a little well in the center with my thumb. Again, take that somewhere between 1 to 2 teaspoons of our chocolate hazelnut filling. Pinch that up, close that around the filling as I can. And then, just as we would have in the cinnamon sugar mixture, I'll just toss this here in my graham cracker crumbs. Give a little shake to knock off the excess, and again, put that on my prepared sheet that I have lined with a silicone mat. So I don't know, this is just an idea I had, trying to balance out that sweetness, that I want a little bit of sweetness, but I really want to be able to enjoy it and not have it be, that, tooth pain, sickeningly sweet that sometimes you get, which, I don't know, I just seem to remember this was a little sweet last time I made it, but again, last time I made it with the commercial version of the chocolate hazelnut spread, so maybe this time will be different, but I figure, why not? Let's use this opportunity to try something new. So, looks like my other batch, it just has a minute or two more, and while that finishes up, let me prepare the second set of cookies, and we'll take them out and we'll compare how they do at the end. See you in a few minutes. All right, it sounds like that's the end for our second batch. In the meantime, finish cleaning up the kitchen, which is always a nice thing. Let's check on that second batch. Oh, these look nice as well. Again, these, if you remember, are the ones that instead of the cinnamon sugar, I rolled them in the graham cracker. You can see the outside is just set. The inside's still a little puffy, which is okay. So we'll just set that here on the stove to cool a moment. In the meantime, we can grab out a cooling rack, and let's transfer our cookies from the first batch over to a cooling rack, because they've definitely cooled down a little bit. They've flattened out just a tiny bit. So we'll transfer those to a cooling rack, and I'll bring those over to show you what those look like. You can see they've flattened out quite a bit. On that one, I see a little bit of that chocolate hazelnut coming out from the middle, but on the bottom, those look nice, the right color, no burnt edges, and they've definitely set. But I'll just set this on the cooling rack on the side to finish cooling. We'll let this second batch sit here on the baking tray a few minutes to cool down enough so we can take them off without them falling apart. And I have one last tray, looks like I just got 4 on this tray, so I have 6, 6, and 4. So, I made only, 16 cookies. Maybe made them a little bigger than I should have, but oh well. I needed enough of that dough to cover that hazelnut filling, so maybe that's just what this needs. So I'll pop this last tray into the oven, and we'll wrap this up. All right, well, while our last batch finishes baking, we definitely have this first batch over here, and I think we might as well, because we finished cleaning up the kitchen, we might as well give it a taste. So let's go ahead, and I think, do I have any milk left? Well, just a tiny bit. So I'm thinking this will be a great cookie to have with a little milk. Again, whatever we have left, we'll be thankful for. But let's pick this cookie here. It looks like it has my name on it. Again, we can see looks nice. We have that edge. It's still a little warm. And as you see, as I open that up, we can see sandwiched inside is that layer of the chocolate hazelnut spread. So I have a feeling this is going to be something really nice. So let's give it a taste. That is wonderful. Again, has all the things that we've come to appreciate about a Snickerdoodle, the cinnamon sugar on the outside, a light and fluffy cookie, but that spread in the middle just really does add something special. And as I kind of anticipated, it has almost that, almost like a hot fudge type of taste in there, and goes great when dunked with a little milk. I'm glad we gave it a try, and thank you to my colleague Al for recommending this in the first place. And although they're still a little bit warm, I wonder, could I steal one of these that's covered in the graham cracker crumbs? Again, we see, just like the other ones, they've cooked up nicely. The edges are set. The center is still a little soft. And as I break that open, we can see the chocolate filling on the inside. But I wanted to give this one a try to give a comparison, determine is there something better between the cinnamon sugar or the graham cracker. So, taste test number 2. Again, same fluffy cookie, same filling on the inside, but that graham cracker on the outside gives a little different quality to it. Definitely has cut down the sweetness quite a bit, which was my objective doing this, because sometimes that cinnamon sugar on top of that chocolate filling can get a little overwhelming. So I think this is a really good idea. To me, it's a little reminiscent of a campfire s'more, which is never a bad thing. But as always, I thank you so much for joining me. I think my last batch of cookies still has a few minutes left to go. But until you join me next time, this is Paul Brooks here in the Quarantine Bakery, wishing each of you and your families a very happy Thanksgiving and a very safe but joyous holiday season. And as always, take care of your family. Please stay safe, and I will see you next time right here in the Quarantine Bakery.